We are back.
Whoa.
Yeah. And this is the latest episode of, what is this, episode 7?
This is episode 9.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Can't count at all.
it's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so episode 9 of Loathsome Things.
Hey, nailed it.
Your new favorite horror movie podcast.
Yep, and this is the latest episode of it, unless you're just going back and listening to old episodes.
That's correct. Because time means nothing in podcast land.
Yeah. You're going to be listening to this so near when we recorded it.
You'll be listening to this next year.
Yeah.
We've got quite a fine one this week.
Yep. My name is Josh, and that guy that's been talking is John.
I'm John, otherwise known as Cock-I-See.
Oh, good. Yes. Let's call it that. John Cock-I-See.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Oh my God.
So this episode we're going to be reviewing Bob Clark's Deathdream, or otherwise known as Dead of Night.
That's correct. This would be the second or third feature film from Bob Clark?
Two? I think this was
Yeah, I think you're right. He is an American director who was born in New Orleans, grew up in Brooksville, Florida, where this film was made. And but his movies were primarily funded through Canada, through the Canadian film industry, which is state funded, and kind of is the reason why we have people like David Cronenberg, where they were kind of allowed to, have these crazy visions and make what they wanted to make with house money.
This is his third feature film.
Oh, this is after Black Christmas and
No,
Children?
this came out the same year as Black Christmas. It
Okay.
came out 2 years after Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things,
Mhm.
and it came out a lot of years after She-Man, A Story of Fixation.
Oh wow, I didn't even read about that one.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, Barb, or you can
Barb.
call him Barb. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Barbara
He had a
Clark.
fixation.
Yeah. He that was his first film. Children Shouldn't Play with. Well, second, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. That one's you can find online. I know for sure because I've seen it.
Yeah, it shares no thematic similarities with this movie whatsoever.
None at all. He famously made, probably most famously made Porky's, I guess. But
Yep.
he as far as horror, he made the slasher classic Black Christmas, which has notoriously had a pretty good influence on John Carpenter when he went to make Halloween.
Yep. Yes. This came out the same year as Black Christmas. So like this was like peak Bob Clark doing good stuff.
Yeah.
He would later go on to direct Porky's 2 the next day, Baby Geniuses, Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2, The Karate Dog, and went uncredited in his directorial finale, Blonde and Blonder, starring Pamela Anderson and Denise Richards.
Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And then promptly was sadly killed in a car crash with, I believe, his 2 sons, which is horrible.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they got hit head on by a drunk driver. They were in their Lexus SUV apparently and got hammered.
Those were not his fortunate sons.
No, so this really got sad. But he also made the Dukes of Hazzard TV movie.
Oh shit.
He made a film called Murder by Decree with Christopher Plummer and Genevieve Bujold.
Ooh.
And he also made a film called Tribute with Jack Lemmon, which I believe Lemmon was nominated for an Oscar in that one. And he also made Rhinestone, one of the biggest flops in Hollywood history.
Nice.
So he
What
had a very
storied career.
Yeah, he really had an interesting career. It seems like he kind of just did whatever the hell he wanted to, including sometimes go for the money.
Did you include that he is the director of the most excruciatingly horrific Christmas film of all time, and also Black Christmas?
Oh, that's right. He made A Christmas Story.
Yes.
Yeah, the stalwart film that all Americans love that was made in Canada.
Yes. Yep. Yep. I will say that tongue stuck to the pole is pretty horror movie influence.
That's right. He had his bona fides down.
Yep.
It's
So that's this guy, the
yeah, that's
most
this
white
guy.
guy ever, Bob
That's
Clark.
correct. And this is this movie's before, we won't spoil it yet, but we will spoil it
Later.
yeah, it's kind of a riff on Vietnam War and family dynamics and loss
Yep. Yeah,
and
just to get your teeth wet, it's a Vietnam a soldier in Vietnam is over there, and his family's over here in America, and they really do wish that he would come home and not be dead in Vietnam.
yeah, they would like that
Yeah,
tremendously, especially his mom.
especially his mom. Yeah.
So before we get into it, let's dry off our teeth
Yeah.
and you wanted to ask me something about this movie?
Well, yeah, because this is a movie that you pick. You mentioned a little bit about it at the end of our last episode,
Mhm.
but I wanted to get more into like what drew you to this movie, like what made it pop out and be like, "Ooh, that's what I want to. That's what I want to really dig into."
Yeah, I when I was sitting down that the day that I picked it and kind of going over making a list of stuff that would be fun to review. One of the things I wanted to do was possibly pick something that I didn't hadn't really heard of, but something that maybe deserved a little bit more attention than it had received. And I saw some videos that were kind of compiling stuff, and most of the videos weren't that adventurous. I had seen almost all the movies on the videos. They were good movies, but they weren't that hard to find, necessarily. They weren't that unknown, I guess you could say, especially not for horror people. But this one came up, and they kind of gave a brief synopsis of it, and it sounded pretty interesting. And I read some reviews and stuff, and I just really like the idea of it. I like that time period. Obviously, because I picked "Don't Look Now" from there as well. But or is it "Don't Look Back"?
Oh shit! Look who's looking now.
Look at the baby geniuses. Don't look now.
Yeah.
That other movie. Anyways.
Yeah.
So that was the one I decided to go with. And then as I read more about it, I discovered that it was made by Bob Clark, who's the same guy that did Black Christmas, which is fucking awesome.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And he's done. I mean, I like A Christmas Story. It's as a kid, I used to like to watch it. I haven't seen a lot of his other stuff either because I didn't know about it, but I've seen Porky's. I saw that in the theater when I was a Ute, and I saw the Dukes of Hazzard TV movie, I believe. Couldn't tell you anything about it.
Have you seen Blonde and Blonder, starring Pamela Anderson and Denise Richards?
I have not. I didn't even know that was a movie, and I actively avoided Rhinestone. Yeah. It's up there with like Heaven's Gate and some of the other massive flops. That there was just a bunch of them that kind of have become notorious over the years.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard people make fun of it on like retro episodes of Hollywood Squares.
Yeah. So yeah, Bob Clark, interesting dude. I mean, he co-wrote the screenplay for this movie, and I'm assuming it's probably an idea that he had, but it looked good, and from the reviews, it looked like something that would be fun to review and fun to watch, and looks like
you were right.
Looks like I was right.
So. Yeah. Excellent.
Whew.
Yep. Yeah. So before we get into spoilers, turn this off and go watch it. It's available from places where you can watch movies for free, which is always my preference. I like them free.
Yep.
I know that's not always the best thing for the movie industry. So if you want to go out and spend some money on it, I know Bob Clark could use that money because he's dead.
Yeah, correct. But maybe he'll come back and collect his money.
Oh shit.
Oh, Bob.
So go watch it and come back, and we're gonna just spoil everything about it.
Oh yeah, just mercilessly.
Oh, so good. All right, bye. And now, welcome back. I'm glad that you watched that movie, John. What would you say is one way to spoil the movie completely?
Um, Zompire?
Yeah, yeah. Fortunate Sompire.
Vampy?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, a handful of people die.
yeah. Some
And
people die.
yeah, and Andy is real fucking creepy.
Yeah, yeah. He did a good job. I found out that that actor dude is like mostly a soap opera writer, but then also did some acting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did like Days of Our Lives and shit like that.
I could see that. I mean,
Yeah,
it's got that kind of face.
yeah,
The
yeah.
yeah, the mom I guess did some of that kind of work too, and ended up getting kind of typecast as a mom.
Yeah, actually, the mom and dad, that's played by John Marley and Lynn Carter, played a couple in a movie called Faces, and they were both nominated for Academy Awards for their role as husband and wife in a marriage that's falling apart in that movie.
Yeah, that's the John Cassavetes film, and that movie is fucking great.
Oh, I didn't know. I've never seen it or heard of it.
It
I,
is emotionally like just intense as hell.
Whoa. So that's them. That's
Yeah,
them. That's their marriage falling apart. And then some years later, they reunited to do this movie together.
that's right. And John Marley also, by the way, is the guy in The Godfather who wakes up with the horse's head in his bed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He has some epic eyebrow stuff. Like
Oh
not
yeah.
quite Eugene Levy, but he's like just one step down from Eugene Levy on eyebrow stuff.
Yeah, he is. He is up there.
Yeah. So this movie starts off in Vietnam. You could hear the song "Fortunate Son" playing if you close your eyes and try really hard.
Yeah.
Um, and we see there's like two soldiers going on, and one of them gets shot. We hear his name is Darren, and there's all kinds of like, no, don't die. Oh, it's gonna be okay. You go on without me, and then we see like the guy who's going to be the main character, who is Andy, and he's staring down at his buddy that's dying in the mud in Vietnam, and he hears a horrible woman's voice that says, "Andy, you can't die. You promised you'd come back." And then he gets shot. We see like a shot through the chest, and then he experiences a dreamlike opening credits sequence while being shot.
It was remarkable.
It's like the hydrostatic shock of the bullet ripping through his body made him imagine an opening credits sequence.
Well, they've often said that sometimes when you get shot, you see your whole movie flash before your eyes.
Yeah, you see all of your executive producers flash before your eyes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and I think they rock the Andy right away, don't they?
Oh yeah, it's instantly after the credit sequence. It starts with Andy and all of this stuff going on. It's actually very. I thought the soundtrack reminded me a lot of Honeydew because it's lots of mouth noise, but then
Yeah.
also like some random stuff that we found that made creepy noises. So in Honeydew, it was them sharpening a knife, and in this one, it's them like rubbing a fork over piano strings. I don't know.
Yeah. It also had one of those scenes that has popped up in some of the movies we watch where some guy is doing something incredibly annoying, and one of the characters will call him out just out of the blue, which was fucking great.
Yeah, yeah. This movie is surprisingly funny, at least at the beginning. Like there's a lot of like shenanigans and hijinks ensuing.
Yeah, there is a fair amount of tomfoolery.
Yeah. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that one guy's name is Tom Fool.
That's right. Dumb
But-
fool.
But we'll get there.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we're back from Nam.
Yeah, so after the Vietnam credit sequence, we see a family saying grace at the table, a mother, father, and daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and they do the normal, like, let's just get this over with and eat grace, and then the daughter and dad start eating, and then the mom is just like still praying really hard, and praying like completely about her son and how she wants him to come back from Vietnam, and how good that is.
Just gonna pray so hard.
Yeah, and they're like looking over at her like, what? Whatever. Don't pay attention to her. Just pass the roast.
That's right.
Yeah.
Pass the taters.
Yeah. That's she finally stops praying and has the dad carve the meat, which she thinks men should always carve the meat,
Oh,
and that a
yeah.
woman shouldn't marry a man that doesn't know how to carve a roast or a turkey.
Yeah, that's definitely number one on the list.
Yeah, I'm praying for my son to come back, and now let me tell you about carving meat and my opinions.
Yeah, she's got some pretty strong opinions.
Yeah. They have a whole conversation. The daughter like tries to talk about something normal, but then the mom brings it back to Andy, who's at war, and about how she talked to Andy's girlfriend and lied to her, telling her that they had received a letter from Andy more recently than they actually had,
Mm-hmm.
so that she won't feel bad.
Yeah, that's nice of her.
Yeah, he didn't write to you, but he did write to us. He's not dead. He just whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely not dead.
Yeah. And at this point, there's a knock at the door, and there's a military officer at the door. He does not have a folded flag, but he does have something that doesn't exist anymore, as far as I know, and it's a telegram.
Yeah. And news flash, he's dead.
Yeah. They never actually say that in this conversation, but yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, Mr. Andy's father.
Yeah.
Mr. Brooks, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's this telegram. Bye.
Yeah.
I'd like to get out of here before y'all all have a sad.
Yeah, please don't open it until I leave.
Yeah. So yeah, we're not directly told that he's dead, but it's inferred. Then we see it like flashes to later on that night. The dad wakes up and the wife isn't in the bed with him, and he goes and she's in a rocking chair holding a lit candle out of her crotch like a penis.
Yeah.
And rocking while praying a prayer to Andy that is the exact same script that we heard coming through whenever Andy was being shot in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
really cool.
Great scene. Very creepy.
Yeah.
Kind of almost a conjuring of sorts.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially because then, later on, he's like rocking it in that rocking chair.
Oh, he rocks that chair hard.
Yeah. That's whenever we start, while this is going on, there's more of the whispery mouth air hose noises, intensifies. Andy.
Yeah, it's not subtle at all.
No, this movie is not subtle.
No.
It switches, and now we're at the point of view of a hitchhiker soldier, we're told, getting picked up by a big rig truck driver.
Mm-hmm. And it is so everything is so 70s. It's great.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Even the caricatures.
Oh man, it's amazing. That's one of the things that's so cool about low budget films is that they wear their era on their sleeve sometimes very clearly. It's like that they just use what's around them, and what's around them just happens to be 1974 or whenever they shot it, 72, I think.
Yeah, the most identifiable aspects of them.
Yeah, like the mint green paint on the walls of their house.
Yeah. Oh, and that crazy stove in their kitchen too.
Yeah.
That's
awful.
Really
that plaid pattern on Dad's lazy boy chair that rotates.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yes. So yeah, and so the POV point of view Andy is very like, I don't know, one of the things that I like about this movie is how you can see it connect to Black Christmas, and you can see it connect to Giallo, and how it's obviously a piece of horror cinema that is in transition between what came before and what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really neat little time capsule of
Yeah.
horror.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So we see him. He gets into the big rig, and then we see the big rig arrives at one of those little gas stations / diners.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a overbearing waitress who is married to the stuttering cook / husband.
Yes.
And at the counter is the guy that I believe is the most drunk man ever.
Yeah, he was he was nuclear drunk.
Yeah. I think he's a community college professor, maybe.
That guy was fantastic.
Yeah, I looked for credits for his other acting credits. It's a sad list.
Drunk.
Yeah. Dead.
What kind of soldier is he? Theirs or ours?
Yeah. His first line is, "Can I see a menu?"
He's so perfectly stereotypically drunk.
Yeah, even you pause it and you can see it in the way that he holds his head, the back of his head up so that his jaw is all the way in and cocked at an angle. It's great.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. Let's see. So the truck driver comes in, orders 2 coffees, one for himself and one for Andy, and he says that he's picked up a real weirdo who is a vet, but he doesn't say anything. And that's when the drunk guy says, "What kind of a soldier is he? One of ours or one of theirs?"
That guy, the truck driver, says ours, and then he says, "Good. I thought we were being invaded." I was like, "What the fuck?"
A horrible man. In any other movie, would be murdered as one of the victims. Not this movie.
Nope. He just goes on with his life.
Yeah, that's his last line, and we never see or hear from him again.
That drunken asshole.
And so they give him 2 cups of coffee and a pack of cigarettes. The driver gets back into the car, drives away. At this moment, I realized how terrifying it must be to drive one of those fucking things.
Yeah.
We see a point of view camera shot again of Andy climbing down out of the passenger seat, and the driver's just in the driver's seat motionless. And Andy then turns and walks away, and then is outside of a house with lots of mouth sounds and is approaching the house that we assume to be the family's. Then the point of view shot changes again, and now it's inside the house, going into the bedroom and looming over the dad who is asleep in the bed. Super good. Really interesting cinematography, because then at this point it turns out that our point of view has changed from Andy to his sister, and his sister then says, "I heard something," and that scares the dad awake. And now it's a normal scene where we see she's come in because she heard something come into the house downstairs.
Yeah. Dad gets his gun out of the drawer. And...
yeah, such a cool dad move.
Yeah. That's my big moment. Finally get to use this.
So the family's creeping around the house, Scooby-Doo gang style. And the dad almost shoots the dog.
Butch the dog.
Yeah, Butch the dog. He's just almost shoots him. And the dog, when they figure out the dog got in because the front door is open, so they go and close the door, and who's hiding behind the open part of the door but Andy?
Yeah, that wasn't creepy at all.
No, yeah, just looming behind the fucking door like a shadow.
With the worst smile on his face.
Oh, yeah.
They should have just shot him right then.
Yeah, he almost did. The dad pointed the gun at him. That dad should not have a gun. No. Obviously, this movie goes on to prove that he should not have a gun.
Yes, that's no kidding.
So then they're so happy that he's home, and they've sit him down and talking about how excited the neighbors will be, how all the neighbors want to see him, and how they're like, "Oh, they told us you were dead, but look at you, yeah, you showed them."
Yeah, Andy was obviously beloved in the community.
Yeah.
So whatever that was about, I guess he was just a fun-loving kid who everybody loved, and
Yep.
it was a huge loss to the community when he left, and now he's dead, and it's so wonderful to have you back.
All of them are happy. The sister is happy, dad happy, mom super happy, and they're all just like doting on him. But yeah, they when they said they're like, oh, they told us you were dead, and he says, I was. And then there's just this super long, uncomfortable pause, and then they just all start laughing.
And then they laugh for like what feels like 10 hours.
They laugh for 10 hours while the camera spends a long time zooming in on their teeth, and like you can count how many fillings they all have. It's a very strange scene.
And as they continue to laugh, it zooms out like from the window looking into the house and backing away, still watching them while they're all oh, it was so uncomfortable.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's a real weird thing. One of the things that I thought was cool about this scene is they've got like him right next to his sister, and you can just see how fucking much like how more pale he is than her.
Yeah, he looks terrible.
Yeah. He does not look like he's gotten any of that good Vietnamese sun.
No, not a ray.
Yeah. Police are investigating the truck driver who is dead and like all fucked up in the driver's seat of his big rig.
Yeah, he's got a big, jagged, disgusting like gash across his neck, his throat. Yep. It was actually pretty decent. Effect there. And he's all bloodied, and they've got the cops there, and they're investigating. And we see Andy at one point. It cuts to Andy just sitting in his rocking chair with just rocking back and forth.
Yeah. And it's on the second floor, the rocking chair, so you can hear it downstairs in the house.
Yeah, at first I forgot that we had seen the mom in the rocking chair. I thought he was like out on the patio.
Yeah.
And then the next time he's in the chair, the dad says he's upstairs in that damn thing. And I'm like, upstairs? What is it? They have an upstairs patio? And then I realize I'm just an idiot.
Yeah, it's in the Andy room that the mom would go into to light a candle in her crotch and pray.
That's right. She would light her crotch dong and pray for Andy to return.
Yeah, so good. It switches, and now we're at the coroner's office, where where a horrible police officer is just like being a horrible police officer around the corpse while the doctor's trying to do his job. And he says, boy, they really rip them up, don't they? The doctor's like, they? What are you talking about?
Doctor was such a dick. Yeah, I guess they do.
Yeah. It's such a weird little like flash of a scene, but it really gives you an idea about these police officers, I guess.
Yeah, they're really incompetent.
Yeah. And then I don't know. I think next is when the mailman walks up.
Oh yeah, the family is having a little picnic.
Mm-hmm.
And the mailman walks up, and look who's here, mail dude.
Yeah.
And then the mailman's like, first is like, oh, what's that, egg salad sandwich? Yeah.
He sees that they're eating egg salad sandwiches, and he gets after it.
He's such an ass face.
After talking about what happened when his dog had eaten pickles, and about the one time that he had like renters that clogged up the plumbing. Great mailman.
It's just the best.
Yeah. So then he starts telling World War II stories because Andy's there, and he's like, oh yeah, back from war. Hey, I remember World War II stories. Some of my friends died and others got shot in the ass.
Yeah, clearly this is not sitting well with Andy.
Yeah, Andy's not having a good time.
And of course, this idiot is completely oblivious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he does handle the mail, and he notices, he's like, hey, you went over there with Darren. Darren hasn't written home to his family a long time, and I don't think that's right. He shouldn't do that.
That's right. And then I think that's when Andy flips out.
Yeah, Andy gets real pissed off and like stomps away, because we know that like the last thing he saw before dying was Darren dying, but of course Mr. Horrible Mailman does not know that.
No. Probably wouldn't have cared if he did.
Yeah,
because he's a douche.
Yeah, he's a horrible man, and I think his part in this movie is also over, right?
I believe so. I don't think we see him again.
There's a whole lot of like really throwaway characters in here
that were all just so ripe to be murdered.
Yeah, exactly. This mailman obviously should be murdered. That the drunk at the diner should have been murdered. Instead, the just okay truck driver got murdered.
Yeah, the charitable truck driver got murdered.
Yeah. I got you this coffee, you weird ass. So then it cuts and we're back at the diner, and they're questioning the diner couple. The husband has an intense stutter, so the wife is always like waiting for him to just remind her of ideas with the first syllable of words, and then she cuts him off and explains the whole rest of the thing.
Yeah.
And one of the people that's questioning them is a horrible Elvis cop. Did you notice that?
What is with the Elvis cop?
I don't know, but they're being questioned by Elvis cop.
He had full on Elvis sunglasses.
Yeah.
And kind of had a pompadour.
Yeah. Just horrible late stage Elvis cop.
Yeah, Vegas Elvis.
Yeah, not the good one.
No.
And so like they're telling him about, oh yeah, there's this soldier hitchhiker that was with him. He said he was weird. I guess that's the guy what killed him.
Yeah.
And then it's then that scene is done too. This movie really like moves around in a strange way. It's all chopped up and sometimes has some congruity errors.
Yeah,
but it's okay. It's still really good.
Yeah, it moves pretty quickly. There's usually something going on.
Yeah. So it goes back to the house and the world's most annoying rocking chair.
Yeah, and the world's most badass turtleneck.
Oh God, yeah.
Andy is in that chair again, rocking just slowly back and forth, and wearing the most amazing white turtleneck.
Yep. Yeah, he for what he is, he's got some rad style.
Yeah, he looks like some sort of weird zombie spy.
Yeah. And so the mom and the dad are arguing because he's acting so different. The dad's mad that he's acting different. And she's like, well, you're the one that made him go off to war. And he said, I went to war, and when I came back, I didn't act like he's acting. And the whole reason we sent him off to war in the first place is so that you wouldn't turn him into a mama's boy. And in response to this, Andy leaves.
Yeah. The already dead Andy is a little butthurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Andy has now has established a tendency that whenever he doesn't like a situation, he just stands up and walks away.
That's right.
Yeah. Andy is concerned with his emotional well-being, as he should be.
Yes. No kidding.
Yeah. As he's leaving, the dog barks at him and doesn't like him, and the mom gets mad at the dog, and the dad says, "Hey, don't fuck with my dog. He's a dog." And
yeah, because she hits him.
Yeah.
She like smacks the dog right by the refrigerator.
Yeah. He's like, "Hey, don't do that." And then she snaps at the dad, and she's like, "Oh, you never wanted Andy to come back from the war anyway, did you?"
I know, she's a little rough.
Yeah. And this is about the time where you can be like, "Oh, wait a minute. Is the whole script of this movie like about the entire soldiers returning from Vietnam War, and this is just a microcosm of it?"
Yeah.
Maybe.
Could be.
Yeah.
A grief riff.
Yeah. So Andy leaves. We see him watching a woman undress through a window because it's the 70s.
Yeah, and we hear like every cricket and frog on the planet apparently going off at the same time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is Florida, so they probably just recorded the ambient sounds at night there.
Yeah, yeah. Probably filmed in Canada is Florida.
No, it was actually filmed in Brooksville, Florida, the town that they call it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So were those actual police cars? Because those looked real fake.
I don't know if those were actual police cars, but I mean, when they showed the trees with the Spanish moss, that was legit.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I guess he's using Canadian money and shooting in the asshole of Florida, which is the last place on earth I would want to make a movie.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it looked creepy enough. That was a good graveyard.
It did. It had this. It looked like American suburbia in the 70s, but it was a part of America that, unless you've been to Florida, just looks very strange, kind of swampy and weird. And all the bug sounds are they really are normal. I mean, my mom lived in Florida, and it was that way whenever we'd go out, walk around, like walk our dog at night. It was like this symphony of bugs and frogs. The place is horrible. I hate Florida.
Yeah, it's the Australia of America. Not in that they're awesome people, but in that the horrible monsters that are the inhabitants.
Yeah, you think that's gross? Check this out. That's Florida.
Yeah, yeah. What happens next? Oh yeah, then so he leaves. He goes from watching a lady undress through the window, then he goes to a graveyard, and we see him like kneel down in front of a tombstone and start like scratching into it.
Yeah, he's like carving something into the tombstone, but we're seeing the tombstone from the back, so we don't really see what he's putting in there.
Yeah. And then it switches, and now he's in a lawn chair, just soaking up some rays in the yard. And at this point, the dad like pops out through the bushes, and he has invited all of the horrible neighborhood children to come over and bother Andy.
All the kids who love Andy so much, and then they're just swarming him.
Yeah, just telling him, asking him things, telling him things like one kid's like, "Oh, I'm taking karate, Andy," and they all think he's so cool. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because I didn't even really like think about the fact that this entire community fucking loves Andy.
Oh, Andy is the tits to these people.
Yeah, he must have been such a cool guy before.
I mean, he probably molested all the children in the entire town. Wait,
yeah.
Is that bad?
That's why that kid is learning martial arts.
Hey, Andy, check it out. I know karate.
Yeah. And so yeah, that kid tries to do a little karate move, which makes Andy flip out and defend himself against a small child.
Yeah.
So he like jumps up and like blocks this kid's fake karate chop, and that scares the kid and makes the dog start barking. So Andy reaches down and picks up the dog by the throat and just slowly strangles it to death.
Oh, that was horrible.
Yeah, it was a really fucking upsetting scene. I don't know if there was a cruelty to animal done in this movie. Like, I doubt that he actually killed that dog, but it looked like he was actually holding that dog and that it was struggling to get away.
Definitely when he first picked it up. Yeah. I mean, they cut to like a fake dog, but there was a couple seconds there that looked pretty dicey.
Yeah, it's not great. And they even have like this one kid that I don't remember seeing in the rest of the scene, who's just this like horrible little cartoon child crying his eyes out while doing that thing where you like put one finger up to your front tooth. It's just
Oh yeah, that was excruciating.
Yeah, it's a great scene. I hope the dog's okay. I'm sure it's dead now.
Well, it's definitely dead now.
Yeah.
It's the only dog that's lived 40 years.
Yeah.
50 years.
And so then there's a whole family argument. The dad's mad. Andy pushes him for being an asshole. The mom blames the dad for the whole thing. And so the dad does what any good 70s dad does. He goes to the bar to get drunk.
Yeah. Yeah, he promptly goes to the bar and starts slamming shots.
Yep. And there is the world's worst bartender who is trying to be like, "Hey, man, maybe you shouldn't drink so much. Here's another drink." Also, don't you think it's gross that they use the word nuptials in the newspaper?
Yeah, what the hell?
He's really concerned with nuptials. He's like, when was the last time you had nuptials? Even the doc shows in, the coroner from earlier in the movie. It's like, hey doc, when was the last time you had nuptials?
This is stupid.
Yeah, it's real weird. Doc's like, I think I had the once.
Just some little weird comic relief. I like when the bartender gives the doctor the "he's been drinking" sign.
Oh yeah, the doctor comes. Yeah, he does the whole like glug glug with the hand.
Yeah,
gesture.
He's such a dude. Of course he's drinking, you idiot. He's in a bar.
You gave him this alcohol. Oh, such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Let's see. The doc asks him what's wrong, and he tells him that he lost his dog, and then he, like, because he's drunk. Oh yeah, I guess we haven't mentioned that Andy wants his return to be kept a secret. So like, they weren't supposed to tell the neighbors, but then they just keep telling the neighbors, and every time they tell a neighbor, he ends up leaving. And now he tells the doc that he's back and that he strangled the dog and that he isn't acting right. So the doc wants to come over, and so he invites him over to talk to Andy. And then it's a weird, good slasher scene where we see the sister through the window in the kitchen, and she is scooping something disgusting out of a can.
Yes.
It's like a can, an enormous can full of the most grotesque something. And it's really, really gross looking, but then we find out it's dog food, so that makes it okay.
It's okay, except the dog is dead.
Yeah. So she's like, hey, where is he? And the mom's like, he's not coming back. She won't explain that the dog's dead. She just says that the dog is gone, that he's not coming back. And the sister's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, don't worry about it. The dog's gone.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Just accept that. Yeah.
Yeah, these people are weird.
Yeah. What's their name?
The names of the characters. Let's see. Christine is the daughter. Christine is the mom, I think.
Yeah.
Catherine is the daughter, and the dad's name was oh god, what's his name? Charlie.
Oh yeah, that's right, Charlie. Yeah. So yeah, they're Brooks. Yeah, that's it. Brooks. I couldn't remember the last name. So yeah, these are some weird Brookses.
Yeah. Not your average Brooks.
So while all this is going on, the whatever, Catherine is explaining to Christine, or Christine is explaining to Catherine, I don't know which way, that they're planning a double date with her and her boyfriend Bob, and Andy and his girlfriend from before he left for war, Joanne.
Yeah, she's got this great plan they're going to surprise Andy by having him reunite with his former flame.
Yeah.
Even though, Andy isn't creepy at all, and there's no reason why anybody might want to run that by Andy first.
Yeah. And they also Joanne does still not know that Andy's back from war. This is the person that the mom talked about lying to at the beginning of the movie, saying that they'd gotten letters from him that they hadn't gotten.
Right.
And so even though a clutch of horrible neighborhood children and a mailman know that Andy's back, Joanne still doesn't know that Andy's back. So it's not just a double date for her, it's a double blind date / surprise reunion with your veteran boyfriend.
Yeah, it's really a terrible idea, to be honest.
Yeah, Joanne does not get the best of this movie.
No, she really doesn't. Poor Joanne.
Yeah. So we know that that's their plan. Whenever the doc comes in, Andy's in there just rocking away on the rocking chair, asks him some questions about, like, hey, when'd you come back? How'd you get here? Stuff like that. And that's when we find out that he arrived between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. Ooh, it's another hour of the wolf reference.
Yeah.
And so after all these questions, Andy starts getting pissed off, and he's like, well, fuck you, doctor, and leaves. And then the doctor tells the dad, he's like, hey, there's this driver that was murdered, and I'm gonna have to tell the police, it's just my job, sorry, but I'll give you until tomorrow to do it.
Yeah, the dad is all, even though he's been, not particularly supportive of Andy's return, because he's obviously very dubious about what the hell's going on.
Yeah, he did just see his son strangle their beloved dog to death.
Yeah, but then suddenly I guess he gets paternal for a second and wants to protect him.
Yep. So, and then once the doctor leaves, the dad goes back in to talk to Andy about it, but apparently Andy had also skedaddled in a car, and the mom is mad. She says that you'd leave too if your father came home drunk.
She's merciless.
Yeah, she really is.
She's just unrelenting.
Oh man, it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Real healthy family.
And so then the camera follows the doctor, who goes home. He has a really cool house, but as he's like walking up to his front door, he hears rustling in the bushes, and we hear the sharp violin music that has recently started.
Oh man, it is sharp.
Yeah, it is just sharp and rapid and
yeah, it's pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah, this movie does. It's like, well, maybe you're feeling comfortable while watching this movie. We don't want that for you.
Let me just introduce.
Yeah. And so it now is flipping between the doctor going into his menacingly dark home, which he does not turn any of the lights on, and Andy's dad, who has locked himself in the closet with a bottle of booze because he's got some serious boozing to do, and a box of photographs.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Look at this photograph.
Oh, God.
Then they start playing Nickelback.
Yeah, it's very anachronistic. Then the doctor answers the phone, or no, he's on the phone with the police department while he hears someone like walking around in his house, and does not talk to them. They're like, what's the matter? Tell us your address, tell us your name, tell us what's going on. And he just doesn't say anything because he's distracted. And they're like, if you can't talk, please just tap the phone. Like, they're trying real hard. And he just like called them to be like, I'm going to share some information. And then he just hangs up this phone while suspecting someone is in his house.
Yeah, for a doctor, he's not real bright.
Yeah. He even at one point in the house turned the lights on to get a good look at the room, and then turned them back off. And so he's just walking around his house at night after hearing things rustling around the outside of the house, and now like hearing things. I don't know. It's fucked up.
Yeah, that's something about movies. I don't know where that changed. It hasn't changed completely, because some movies still do this, but it seemed like in all movies back then, people always did really, really stupid shit. Like there was no thought given for a lot of the decisions that people would make. There was something very unnatural about people's behavior in movies in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And all the decades before. That realism wasn't really, it just wasn't a thing, I guess. Maybe they thought people wouldn't like it. It would be too real. I don't know what it was, but there was always this disconnect in movies, and you get a lot of that in this too.
Yeah. There's a lot of problems like that in horror. Like I think they replaced the woman that just pushes herself up against a wall and turns her head to one side as a reaction to a horrific thing, to then the runaway fall down girls.
Yeah. The final girl who just suddenly has lost the ability to run.
Yeah, just cannot take 5 steps in a row.
It's so ridiculous.
And this guy who just walks around his house in the dark and then sees a shadow across the doorway, so he goes to open the door to the creepy stranger in the middle of the night.
Yeah, another really smart move on the doctor's part.
Yeah, the coroner that has seen the recent murder suspects that it's Andy, and then just opens the door to Andy.
Whoa, what a shock.
Who says, "I'm here for my appointment."
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Maybe we can do this another time, Andy.
Yeah.
No, we're doing it now.
Yeah. In your office. So they go into his fucking office in his house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he makes the doctor feel his pulse. He has no pulse. He makes the doctor put a stethoscope up to his heart. He has no heartbeat. And he tells the doctor, "I died for you. Why shouldn't you return the favor? You owe me."
Yeah, was that some sort of commentary on the martyrdom of dying in war or something?
I'm sure not.
It was just a dumb line.
Yeah, just a throwaway badass one-liner.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So then he murders the fuck out of the doctor, and
with a syringe.
Yeah, with a syringe, just stabs him with a syringe to death.
Which would probably take 10 hours.
Yeah, you got to really perforate that heart.
You can kill somebody with a fucking syringe.
Yeah, and then he uses the like rubber connective lines of the stethoscope to tie off and mainlines a huge syringe full of the doctor's blood.
Tie off? He's fucking dead.
No, he ties off his own arm.
I know. Why would you tie off your own arm if you were dead?
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe I don't know anything about drugs.
He has no fucking blood pressure. Why does he need to tie off?
That's a good point. I guess it wouldn't look as cool if he didn't.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Now we know why the truck driver had needle holes in his arm. Yeah,
it does explain why he had needle holes in his arm, but it doesn't explain why his neck was chewed the fuck off.
Yeah, apparently Andy hadn't perfected the art of killing yet.
Yeah. It's real weird. This movie has some issues.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah.
It's the 70s.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a pretty effective scene, and then we even see like after he injects himself with the doctor's blood, he even like does the whole like head lean back, eyes roll up, like heroin thing.
Yeah, and if you notice, this is where you start to realize and put it together. And although they don't say it, if he doesn't get blood for a certain amount of time, he's basically starts decaying.
Yeah. That's right. Because whenever he comes into the doctor's house, we see that he's like paler and wrinkly and pasty and gross.
Yeah, he's got that. I think they put like some kind of a glue on your skin, and when it dries, your skin shrinks up.
Yep.
So he's got that look to him. It's a good effect. I mean, it works. It does make him look older than he is, but more than anything, it just makes him look unhuman.
Yeah. It's really effective. And then he looks mostly better the next day.
Yeah, he's back to his pallid but not super wrinkly self.
Yeah.
He's been rejuvenated. He's some sort of Vambi.
Yeah. So yeah, that I thought that was weird. I thought that putting in the thing about him like mainlining blood and it being like a soldiers returning from war and all that is left for them is drugs type thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very effective. It's very unsubtle, but it's only right there.
Yeah.
And it's nowhere else in the movie.
Yeah. It was a little odd.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely see what they were going for. It was a cool thing that they were going for. It just felt a little clumsy.
And one thing I really do like about this movie is they really don't explain anything. Like how this is happening. It doesn't really fucking matter. Like it just happened.
Yeah, no, it doesn't answer questions. It's really I mean it's part of that artistic movement at the time, like with Don't Look Now, where it's really it's achieving effects, and it's more worried with that than with a fully explained storyline.
Yeah, and I think that I think part of the the judgment there is that it would be more effective if it's not just handed to you, because it leaves some questions unanswered, even though you can kind of, I mean, obviously you're going to surmise that there's some sort of supernatural thing going on, but I mean, it's still open. It could be all kinds of things.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting, and it even does that in the very final scene. It doesn't really give an answer. It's just this really like effective, incredible scene, but
Yeah.
it doesn't cap anything off.
Yeah, it really does get better by the like exponentially better by the second near the end of the movie.
Oh yeah, it gets real wild those last 5 minutes. So let's see. It goes back to the house. The mom is like snipping at the sister, talking about how if you used to never come to me with your problems, Andy always came to me with his problems. That's why I love him more. She doesn't quite say that, but that's the family situation going on there.
Yeah, she all but says I like him and I don't like you.
Yeah. Which later she will basically say exactly that.
I know. She even steps over that line eventually.
Yeah. She's not doing so great right now.
No.
She ends up spilling the beans to Andy about the surprise double date and how it's going to be a surprise for Joanne. And then it switches, and now we finally get to meet Joanne, his flame of yesteryear, and she's a charming individual. She like doesn't like blind dates. She's done blind dates and thinks that they're dumb. And then she like waffles back and forth, and she's like, "Well, all I do is watch TV, so I guess so." And then she's like, "No, actually, I don't want to."
Yeah, she's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, she's a very quickly a fully realized character, uncertain and somewhere between confident and self-conscious. It's really interesting, like how quickly they established her as a realized character.
She's one of the only genuine people in the movie, really.
Yeah, she's probably the character that sucks the least.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And after all of this like back and forth and her like ending on the conclusion that she doesn't want to go on a blind date with them, they finally tell her that it's Andy, and she's super excited, like just so happy.
Yeah. Happy, but kind of like, hey, are you gonna like me still?
Yeah. Oh, I look old now. Do I look old?
Oh, are my teeth crooked? Yes.
Do I have 60s hair in a 70s movie?
Am I working in the goofiest looking 1970s floral shop ever?
Yes. So that's going on. Then we get a father-son talk where he's asking Andy if Andy's like, "You're not mixed up in any kind of trouble, are you?"
It's the lamest father-son talk.
Yeah.
You're not a serial killer, are you?
You wouldn't happen to be murdering a bunch of people, huh?
Stupid ass.
Yeah. That's when we find out some maniac killed the doctor. We hear, it's like overhearing someone saying some maniac killed the doctor, and it's probably the same guy that killed that truck driver. And it flashes back to Andy in his bedroom, and we can see that he is starting to rot and have maggots in parts of him.
Yeah, that was really disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, we did see the mailman again. We see the mailman in the scene where he's delivering mail, and he walks by the empty doghouse. And then it cuts to the part where the mom's being a total cunt to the sister.
Yep, that's right.
At that moment, the mailman is whistling the Camptown Races.
Oh, good.
I just remembered that. Fucking douchebag.
Oh, well, there's worse things he could whistle.
That's true.
So Andy's hands are rotting now. We've got all of this thing, and Joanne is coming over for the big double date with Andy's sister and with Bob. Bob.
Good old Bob.
Yeah, he looks like
good old Bob, who looks exactly like Jason Schwartzman.
Yes. He looks like a short Jason Schwartzman.
Which would make him like 2 feet tall.
Yeah, he's just Jason Schwartzman's dad. I'm glad you mentioned it because I couldn't remember his name.
I was just sitting there watching this scene and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, he looks exactly like Jason Schwartzman.
Oh, Bob, good job. You made that mustache popular with one actor in the future.
That's right.
And so they're all like excited about it, and they're waiting for Andy to come downstairs, and we see that Andy's solution to having gross eyes and rotting skin with maggots on his hands is to go full-blown giallo dress.
Yeah.
With the shiny black gloves and the big dumb sunglasses.
The most ridiculous sunglasses.
Yeah. It looks like he just got done at the eye doctor.
Yeah. It was impressive.
Yeah. And those gloves, it's just like, especially from this era, you see those black gloves on, it's like, oh, okay, I see what's about to go down.
Yeah.
And so he goes downstairs, and they're all excited to see him. And Joanne comes up to hug him, and he like grabs both of her arms by the wrist and prevents her from hugging him, and just says, "Hello, Joanne."
Hello, Joanne.
Yeah. And then it's time for a brother-sister double date, which is a very uncomfortable thing to me. I don't understand that dynamic of let's go on a double date. You and your girlfriend in the back seat, me and my boyfriend in the front seat.
Yeah, because what are they, 12?
I don't know. They go to the like foot-long hot dog store.
Yeah, the Coney drive-in or whatever.
Yep. And so all of this, their double date is going on while the dad goes to the police to and we're not really sure exactly why he's going to the police at that point. But so they're having a double date, and he goes in and he starts telling the detective this stuff while a completely brand new horrible policeman is fucking with the fucking blinds. He's just shutting them up, shutting them down, shutting them up over and over again, super loud, like going from slow to doing it really fast.
It's so fucking annoying.
It's the worst.
It's like, wow, is this just going to go on forever?
Yeah. To the point, like the dad's trying to like say stuff and keeps looking over at him, and the like police captain that he's talking to is like looking over, and like finally it feels like 2 minutes into the scene, the police captain is finally like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
So great. Don, what the hell are you doing? It's like, yeah, what the hell are you doing, dude?
Yeah, he finally stops. And then he starts pacing around back and forth behind the dad. Just the worst.
Terrible cop.
Yeah. And so then it flips back, and they're at the double date. Joanne sees his gross arm wound underneath the glove.
Yeah.
And that's just like a quick flash. It goes back to the dad, who's describing his interaction with the doctor before the doctor died, and saying that, oh yeah, the doctor said that he had to go back because he had an appointment with some returning soldier that's certainly not my son. In fact, he's not even from around here, and he was going to meet him at his house at 9. Yeah, so he's making up a story in order to protect Andy from the police.
Yeah, which is absolutely ridiculous.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay. The horrible cop is like skeptical of it, but they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Cool story, dude.
That's right.
And then it switches back, and they're talking about going to the going to the drive-in,
Mm-hmm.
and they ask what's playing, and Bob says, "Who watches?" Right, Andy? And Andy says, "Right, Bob." And I swear I've fucking heard that soundbite before. It sounds like so familiar, and it's so just pitched differently than the rest of the movie. It's really, really effectively creepy.
Yeah, he's really good at being creepy for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, and then it switches to Joanne, who after they say all of that, she like looks Andy up and down and says, "Hello." It's like, oh, oh no. It switches now, and the mom is watching news and sees all of the news about murderers and realizes that, oh, obviously this is my wonderful son Andy that is murdering people.
Yeah, just conveniently shuts it off right before they mention it being a soldier
Yeah,
or possibly being a soldier.
yeah. So her and the dad get into a whole argument. She says it's his fault, and he tells her that he lied to the police to throw them off the trail, and she says that they're going to have to take Andy away. The dad finds out about the double date and is like, "Oh, I've got to go track him down," and gets his gun.
Yeah, of course.
And is this the one where they talk about the daughter and how the mother's like, "Oh, I don't care about her"?
Yeah, it could be. I can't remember exactly. I don't think I made that note there, but I'm trying to remember when she says it's rough though.
Yeah, it's not great.
I mean, just tell your daughter, I never liked you anyway.
Yeah. So the dad gets his gun and goes to find them. We see them. They're at the drive-in. The double feature is Death in Space, which is a real movie, and The Space Knots, which I could not find any evidence of it being a real movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And there's that weird like piano string fuckery music going on, and the Bob and the sister get out of the car to give them time alone, and she doesn't understand why Andy's acting weird, and she asks if he's mad, and he says, "I'm not mad or anything," as if to signify that he's dead inside.
Yes, has no feelings whatsoever.
No feelings. And then he starts sweating rotten, gross liquid out of his forehead.
Yeah, he starts sweating chocolate milk.
Yeah, it's super, super gross.
It's like, what the hell is that?
just dripping right out of his hairline.
It's brown sludge just running down his face.
Yeah, and right in the middle, and it's right in the middle of like Joanne expressing sincere feelings at him.
Yeah.
So then he starts dripping body fluid, and then he attacks her.
Yeah, doesn't his glove come off partially at some point, and she sees the maggoty hand?
Yeah, that was earlier, which did
Right.
not turn her off, and then this is when the sunglasses go off, and she sees that he has like jaundice eyes and wrinkly skin.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he looks assy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not hot.
No.
And so then he attacks her and kills her in the back seat. And right around then is when his sister and Bob come back to the car, which is locked. And they're like, "Hey, come on, lovebirds, let us in there." And so then he unlocks it for them, goes back to his killing business in the back seat, and they get in the front seat and are just like only slightly bothered with them doing what they think is like heavy necking or something.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, that's just my brother in the back seat getting hard."
That's my brother laying pipe in the back seat.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, they even say the line, "I hope I'm not disturbing you lovebirds." Oh, so gross. So then they realize that something's wrong because Andy like pops up and he looks like a vampire and his face is covered in blood.
Yeah, he looks real bad.
Yeah.
There's pretty much no hiding that something terrible is happening now.
Yeah. Yeah. So then they freak out and get out of the car, and he chases them down and strangles the fuck out of Bob.
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah. Murders Bob to death. And then his sister is running away, so he jumps back into the car to chase her down with a car. And and then she's like, does the girl, like movie girl fall down bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just some random other guy crawling around on the ground with her.
Yeah, what was that? It was like a kid, right?
Yeah, some kid, like it's not Bob, wearing completely different clothes,
Yeah.
and helps her get out of the way, and then he gets run over back and forth multiple times by the car.
Oh man, does he get run over?
Yeah, like just destroyed.
He gets run over and over and over. It's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah, the scene ends with him finally backing over the kid again so that he can make his getaway.
You see his legs rolling as the car moves.
Yeah,
That was pretty gross.
It's pretty intense, and it's so weird because who the fuck was that kid?
And why did he want to kill him that much?
Yeah, it wasn't enough to just kill him. He was like, oh, I've got to squeeze everything out of that corpse.
I mean, it's not he wasn't drinking his blood or anything.
Nope.
Or he just became extremely murderous.
Yep. And so now at this point, he's killed Joanne, poor Joanne. And with her, he wasn't like, or maybe he was. Maybe we just didn't see him syringing Joanne, but it looked like he, based on all the blood on his mouth, he was just drinking her blood through the neck.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So why did he need the syringe in the first place?
Yeah. And then with the truck driver, he had like neck business and syringe business.
He's still working on his technique.
Yeah. If it had been, I don't know. That one's hard for me.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a hole there.
Yeah, him going from the syringe to the neck would have been like a progression of like, oh, obviously he's getting worse.
Yeah.
But they didn't quite land that. So
no.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, me either.
So yeah. So now he's driving around in a car with his dead girlfriend's body in the back seat. I think they're at the police are questioning people at the movie theater.
Oh yeah, I think that's right. I think Elvis Cop is back, isn't he?
Elvis Cop is back, and they're in front of a movie poster for the movie The Death Master, which I looked up. It looks terrible.
Drive-in classic.
Mm-hmm. And then it's back at the home. Andy's in his rocking chair, and his mom is like doting on him. The dad comes into the room with a gun. Oh yeah, this is it. That's whenever the mom says, quote, "I don't care about Catherine."
That's right.
Because they're wondering where she is, and she, the dad figures that he probably killed her along with Bob and Joanne.
I don't care about Catherine.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Wow. Wonderful mom.
Yeah, God.
You should get that like cross-stitched into a throw pillow. And then he's mad at Andy and he says, "Stand up and face me." He's got the gun, and Andy stands up and faces him, and he is all kinds of zombie fucked up looking.
He looks so cool.
He's got like a huge like pustule on his forehead.
Yeah, that makeup is fantastic.
Yeah.
It looks really gross, like really disturbing.
Yeah. And now he's like walking all zombie style, like all stiff and arms out, like he's got like armpit rashes.
Yeah, he's not doing well.
Yeah. And he's not having a good time anymore. Turns out the blood just isn't doing it for him.
Yeah.
And so like the dad is like obviously like going to shoot him, but then just can't bring himself to do it. So he walks into the other room and kills himself.
Yeah, that was pretty rough.
Yeah, this movie is fucking brutal.
Yeah, it is.
So the mom helps Andy down the stairs and outside, and that's when the police show up, and they're like, "Freeze!" And then instead of waiting, they just start shooting the fuck out of Andy, and he just keeps walking. So the cops are shooting, and the mom just calmly gets into the driver's seat of a car. Andy gets into the passenger seat, and then a police officer just comes up and starts shooting Andy in the stomach.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
It is hard. So the mom drives away. Andy grabs the cop that's shooting him in the stomach and murder drags him as they're driving away.
Yeah, he slams into a telephone pole. And
Yeah.
that's where they lose the cop.
Yeah, very Hereditary style.
Yeah.
And them shooting the back of high quality 1970s cars makes the entire back of this 1970s car on fire.
Yeah, it just bursts into flames.
Yeah. So they're now driving around downtown Schittsburg and on fire while trying to drive away from cops, and it's just like, local delightful downtown shops around them, and driving around the Central Park with like one bench, car on fire.
Yeah, they're sure to get away.
Yeah, surely they will.
Yeah.
And so Andy's like telling her where to drive, and he directs her to the cemetery that we saw earlier, and they completely fuck up the cemetery gate because 1970 cars are very flammable but indestructible.
Yeah, they burn like crazy.
Yeah.
But they can't be damaged.
Good old asbestos. Yeah, so yeah, they don't just crash the metal gate of the cemetery, it also destroys the brickwork, the like 10-foot high brick wall on either side of the gate.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive that they managed to damage the entire gate.
Yeah. And this car is just slightly dented.
Yeah. Those things they're tanks.
Yeah, the headlight still works.
It's like supercar.
And it's still actively on fire.
Yeah, of course.
And so then they get out and they run into the cemetery, and Andy is like obviously deteriorating, like just at a rapid pace, and he crawls into the dirt while his mom is crying, and he finds like this little like divot into the ground, and he like lays down in it and starts scooping dirt onto himself.
Yeah.
And his mom is like crying and trying to prevent him from doing it while he's just like wallowing in there. And then we see that above him is the tombstone that he was scratching on earlier, and it has his name in it with the year of his birth and year of his death carved in underneath that.
Mm-hmm.
And the mom's just crying, and at a certain point she stops fighting him and just starts helping pour the dirt over him. Yeah, and then we just see his like jerkety struggles stop, and he finally just dies while the police are standing around watching, and the mom starts swaying and crying, and the camera pulls away into the trees, and whoa, it's over.
That's the end. Credits.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, that scene with him like trying to like crawl into the grave and bury himself. That is so fucking intense.
I just want this to be over.
Yeah. He's just, oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be like that, like to end like that. I thought he would, I don't know, go out in a blaze of glory or something. Yeah, something, anything, not that. I've never seen anything like that I can remember. That was pretty dark, especially for that time period.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I think makes this movie so good is it's obviously, it's at a time when a lot of horror was, like vampire, werewolf, Frankenstein,
Mm-hmm.
and this, like took a lot of the ideas of the vampire movies and just was like, all right, now we're going to switch it all this way.
Yeah, let's make this about something that is extremely timely. People are dealing with these exact issues right now.
Yep.
At least the familial issues.
Yep. Yeah. It was super, super timely and very like flipping the whole like vampire mythology on its head and making it horrific in an entirely new way. It's fantastic.
Yeah, there's nothing sexy about his form of being a vampire. He's just it's like some horrible, like a disease that he's stuck with.
Yep. Yeah, one of the few times that I can say this movie would have not been as good if Christopher Lee had been in it.
Yeah, you can't often say that.
What were the scenes that like really made this for you?
I mean, the first time I saw his full-on decayed makeup was pretty intense.
Yep.
That was a like one of those, you have these moments sometimes, and particularly in horror films, where all of a sudden you're just like, yes,
Yeah.
yes. That was that moment for me.
Yep.
The let's see, I'm trying to think of like specific scenes. I mean, there was the whole scene with the Karate Kid
Hmm.
where he strangles the dog. That was pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it was a horrible thing, but it was a great scene. It was really, I thought it was really effective. Uh, let's see, what other scene would I point to? Um, I don't know. I think just the overall feel of this movie is really kind of something that got me. I liked the otherworldly quality of the shooting locations, and this trying to portray this kind of version of suburban America that was so nasty
Yep.
and so deeply flawed that these people, particularly this mom, just can't even function with the idea that she would lose her son. She literally just can't accept it.
Yep.
And that denial is so powerful that it essentially like forces him to come back.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think of it like that.
As far as like individual scenes, I mean, I think it worked better for me as a just an overall picture, not so much like specific scenes. But I don't know. How about you?
It's really hard to pull out individual things. I mean, at the beginning of the movie, of course, the drunk guy at the diner was
Yeah.
a really great way of making you think that you're going to see a movie that's not the movie that you're seeing.
Yeah, they introduce these characters that just seem to be like slasher fodder.
Yeah, exactly. Like all of these things that are just ripe, but then it just throws it all away. Um, and then the scene with him mainlining blood was really effective and
Hmm.
took you out of kind of took me out of the movie because it just immediately was like, whoa, symbolism.
Yeah,
But it was really good. And yeah, the fucking graveyard scene, but also the whole like fucking showdown with the cops and the car on fire. I
yeah, that
don't
was
know.
great.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
I love this movie.
yeah, it's like concentrated awesomeness that just gets more concentrated as the story goes on.
Yep.
I mean, by the end, if you really you look back, it's presented, like it's almost got this matter of fact style, where it almost has like a TV of the week feel to it, which at first I guess you could think, well, that would take away from it because it seems to lose some of its seriousness. But as the story goes on, and it's so merciless that then it becomes even heavier because it's presented to you like something you've seen a million times. But particularly from that era, I mean, if that exact same story was made now with the more kind of naturalized style of acting and all that, I mean, it would be like insanely dark.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that it was insanely dark for that period. It might have been a little too cerebral for a lot of people, even though it's not hard to follow. It's just it's heavy stuff, really.
Yeah. 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 You're right. I didn't think about the fact that it's very like a type of like a Mayberry type of town.
Yeah,
And so it's got just like, the adorably annoying postman and just like all of these like small town characters that he's returning to.
yeah,
So like he's coming back from war ruined, and this is all of the stuff that he was part of, that he was, like fully established child of this town,
hmm,
and now he's coming back to it ruined, like a horrible version of Gomer Pyle.
yeah. And I mean, it's such an obvious and clear analog for exactly what people were dealing with at that time. They leave and then they come home and they're just not the same. It's like they've died.
Yeah, and now they're the disrupting factor in the thing that they were just trying to come home to.
Yeah, nobody understands where they're coming from because nobody's really been through what they've been through. It's an alienating thing. So and apparently it's the first film that really kind of deals with those kinds of issues,
Oh, really?
genre or otherwise. It's one of the first anyway that really kind of tackles that kind of subject head on. Of course, it probably got no, attention because it's a horror film.
Yeah, 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 it's super effective and dark and powerful, and I want to say timeless, but I think part of what I'm missing from it is just not having lived through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that there are things that have like not aged quite as well, but I mean overall the movie is just fucking excellent. It's really like nitpicking on things that aren't great.
It's light on things like style, or it doesn't. I don't really I can't tell you what kind of a guy this director is by watching his movies, and sometimes you can kind of get a good idea for. You can at least I mean, you may even be wrong, but at least you form some kind of opinion for what what the creator of the stuff you've body of work is, that you've seen. But with Bob Clark, I have no idea, because he made great stuff, and he made absolutely terrible stuff, like
Yep.
historically terrible stuff, and all kinds of shit in between. He was capable of working with extremely talented actors. He was capable of making extremely successful movies, and he was also capable of taking really good actors and making a terrible movie. I mean, I just don't know enough about the guy to really know. And the with this film, the style is pretty much left to the time period in which it's shot. So I don't really know necessarily what the style choices were. I think it just borrows from its era.
Yeah.
It's really it's just the story, and he picked a familiar setting, where he grew up, and it added to the feel of the film. But I don't know that it was necessarily intentional or not. It may have just been a comfort choice for him.
Yeah.
So there's some definite questions. It would be cool to be able to interview the guy if he was still around, and just kind of pick his brain about stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be really cool, because yeah, I mean, like, for me, it's hard for me to like put it exactly in its place. It's obvious that he's pulling inspirations from things. It's a patchwork movie. It's directly related to the like classic vampire movies, like including the Hammer films that were still going on at this time, or
Mm-hmm.
up to this time maybe. And then there's that scene where he pulls on the gloves, and it's like, oh, okay, he's there's a direct reference. He's obviously influenced by Giallo, and then the crazy on fire car scene is some from those like awesome car chase movies of that era.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all over the place. I get the feeling that it's an important transition, especially in context of like vampire movies, and it feels like he's part of creating a new wave of what scary movies are supposed to be like, especially when you put it in context with the next movie he came out with was Black Christmas. There's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, this feels like whatever this guy's creative output was, like this was his apex. This is at the time at which he was doing his coolest shit.
Yeah, and I think he was dealing with an industry that didn't understand that didn't take what he was doing seriously.
Yeah.
So if he wasn't getting the ticket sales, then that was that for those folks.
Yeah.
And maybe that was discouraging for him, and he moved on and started doing different kinds of work. And he did find tremendous success, with Porky's and A Christmas Story. I mean, both of those films are huge hits.
Yeah.
Porky's was an enormous hit back then. I mean, everyone was talking about it. I remember. It's ridiculous because it's terrible. But
Yeah, I've still never seen that movie, just simply because I know it's famous, and then I look at like the cover and the synopsis, and I'm like, why?
Boy, if you want to talk about problematic.
Oh God, I can only imagine.
Oh, it is bad.
Jesus.
It came on not too long ago, and I was like, I'll watch a little bit of this. And I watched about 5 minutes, and I was just like, this is, first of all, it's terrible. It's really badly made. And I was so uncomfortable. It was so misogynistic and just, I mean, it's like the entire movie where they're calling each other retarded and gay, and, those are terrible words, and, but not for the right reasons. It's like terrible. They're not terrible as in don't say them. They're terrible as in these are horrible things to call people.
Yeah. Aren't you insulted by being called this?
Yeah. And, like it's perfectly okay to put a peephole in a girl's locker room and stare at them while they're getting naked and stuff, and oh, I'd really like to get into her pants. The whole movie is like that. It's horrible.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That guy made this.
Yeah, this movie does not portend any of that business.
Well, I mean, some of what you're saying right there sounds very Black Christmassy.
Well, that's true. Black Christmas is pretty intense.
Yeah, like what if Black Christmas was a goofball college comedy?
Yeah. It's really impossible to overstate how much of an influence Black Christmas had on the future of horror films, particularly in the 80s.
Yep. Yeah, that's one of the things that I really liked about seeing the black gloves in this movie, is seeing like, oh, okay, yeah, so he didn't just happen upon, creating the slasher genre. He was like, oh yeah, giallo, let's do this American style.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of giallo, but one thing that giallo does really well is set that menacing kind of, atmosphere, and that creepy quality when the killer is stalking somebody is pretty effective, and he does definitely borrow from that.
Yeah, I don't enjoy. I'm not a fan of a good giallo movie, but I can appreciate the place it has in the influence on the genre over time.
Yeah. There's something about them that, for some reason, the misogyny and the hatred towards women is just overbearing. It's very difficult to watch for me.
Yeah. The last time I tried to watch one, I stopped whenever it was, yes, the vagina stabber strikes again. And I was like, okay.
I know. It's like, okay, do we have to be that literal?
Yeah. Dude, calm down.
You understand that there's an entire gender out there that deals with this kind of stuff every day.
Yeah.
You don't have to make some creepy reference to it.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else? Are there any other things that you would like to say about this movie, John?
This is one of those movies it's another one of these instances where something in culture really just kind of seems to fall through the cracks for whatever reason, and really just never gets the credit that it deserves. This movie is definitely in that category.
Yep.
And I know there's a number of reasons why these things happen, and everything can't get the credit that it deserves. But it's a shame, because this movie really does deserve a lot of credit, especially if you're a horror fan. This is a must. I mean, you have to see it.
Yeah.
And if you're not necessarily a horror film, but you like good movies, I think this is, if you can overlook the fact that it's the 70s and it's going to have trappings of the 70s in it, I don't think that there's so much of that it should distract from this being an enjoyable movie to watch.
Yeah, I mean, there was a moment or two where it slows down, but it's at no point was I bored.
Right.
Yeah, and I am a millennial. I get bored. I get bored at good movies.
Yeah.
I didn't get bored with this movie.
Yeah. No, it moves pretty well for the most part. I think the pacing is pretty good. So there are some moments where it does tend to slow down, but it's true. It never gets out of hand.
Yep. So yeah, definitely if you listened all the way through all of this and you haven't watched it, you should go watch it. It's fantastic.
It's a lot of fun. You can find it free online.
So good.
Yeah, totally worth free.
Yeah, absolutely worth free. You're probably going to have to watch some ads.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's not free.
No.
Yeah, that's not a Fortunate Son.
No, that gets taken right out of your soul.
Yeah. I know for Don't Look Back Now or whatever. I'm so good at movie titles. I gave it I think I gave it an obligatory 5 out of 5. I don't know. That's not the real score, but for this movie, I tried to find things where I could actually knock it down a peg, but I couldn't. So I gave this movie my first fully non-obligatory, just actually 5 out of 5.
Excellent. That's fantastic. I would give it. I was thinking about this after the last time I watched it, and I guess I would give it a 4. I think I really, really liked it. There was something about the lack of style, I guess, where I feel like he told the story remarkably well. It was a really original idea I wish I had seen it in the 70s, because I'd be curious how it would have impacted me then.
Old.
Yeah. Well, if I had seen it in that year, I would have been way too young to even have any idea what was going on. But
Horrible little ruined John.
yeah, but still would have been alive. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, it wasn't. I don't think it's it's not the kind of movie that I'll watch over and over again. And I don't tend to do that too much with horror films. But I mean, if it's something that was on TV all the time, which it isn't, but if it was, I probably wouldn't watch it all the time. And I was just kind of adding up in my mind, how much of an impact would this movie have on me if I was just watching it? And I mean, I think a 4 for me is probably a reasonable rating.
Absolutely. That's great. So that puts it at a compiled 9 out of 10. That's pretty good for us.
Yeah. We really like this movie a lot. And I mean, I would sing this movie's praises, to anybody. I mean, I think it's great.
Yeah. It's a great piece of the history of horror cinema, and also it's just entirely enjoyable and moving to watch. Like, oh my god, the end of that movie is just incredible. It was not something that I was fully prepared for, and it took me a while to actually wrap my brain around all of the symbolism of it, which I'm still not certain that I have.
It's funny, as we're talking about it, and I'm thinking about that the actors, John Marley and what was her name, Lynn Carlin.
Yeah, I'm scrolling. Yeah,
Mary
Lynn Carlin.
or Marie Lynn Carlin or something like that.
Yeah.
The film of Faces, the Cassavetes film, it's not a horror film, but it might as well be. I mean, the emotions are so raw, and not that he is known for that. This is not the only movie where he does that, but the acting in that film is so intense and so raw that it could almost be horror. I mean, the hopelessness that you feel watching these people fight, and how real how natural it all is. Because if I remember, it's improvised.
Whoa.
It's a very daunting film. So I mean, if this movie had that kind of emotional intensity in it, it would have been top 5 greatest horror films of all time.
Yeah.
And saying that and having that thought makes me wonder, because I think this was made after Faces, correct?
Correct.
And so you've got to imagine that Clark saw it. I mean, since he hired both of the lead actors from the damn thing, I wonder if that was something that he wanted to kind of inject some of that emotional realism, and if he was getting pushback from the financiers.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's possible. That goes back to you talking about how cool it would have been to interview him about this.
Yeah, because I mean, that really would have, oh man, I'd be so curious.
Yeah, it's also possible that he just really liked that spunk that they had together and wanted to get a little bit of that in there, but didn't want to focus on it too much. Because
True,
we don't know that he could just be a real shitty guy.
Yeah. Their performance together is great in both films, really. I mean, they in this movie they're despicable people. I guess in the other movie they kind of are too, but they're really just more real people struggling with a dissolving marriage, which can bring out the worst in anyone, really.
Yeah. I mean, in this movie they're not handling a very important situation in American history well. They're doing a bad job of what a lot of people had to face in that time.
Yeah. And the mother literally cannot accept reality.
Yep. And the dad can't really either.
Yeah, in his own way, he's disassociated himself from it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that was able to come back from World War II without having these problems that his son is having, and he fucking kills himself.
Yeah,
it is super intense. It is really good. I mean, I love just the fucking idea of this movie. What if we did a Johnny comes back from war and now he's a horrible vampire, and the family has to deal with all of the things that normal families have to deal with whenever a soldier comes back from war and they're fucked up, but he's not just fucked up, he's a vampire.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the more it's funny, the more we talk about it, the more I realize like how fucking awesome it is.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
It's crazy that it just never really just I mean, I didn't know about it until I stumbled across it looking for stuff to watch,
Yep. I'd never heard of it until you mentioned it, and yeah, it's fucking fantastic. It was. I also we talked about Black Christmas off air, and I watched it and enjoyed it, but I'd never thought to look up the director. Like, I hadn't thought about it in the context of this podcast where we look at the directors and the rest of their work. So I was just completely unaware.
Yeah, I was too, and because anytime I had read stuff or watched stuff about Black Christmas, nobody ever really talked so much about Bob Clark other than to immediately shift to John Carpenter and talk about how much of an impact it had on Carpenter, which is kind of ironic because the whole idea was to try to point out how cool this piece of work was that Bob Clark put out. So to show how cool it is, they immediately shift to John Carpenter and talk about how cool John Carpenter's work is. Which, don't get me wrong, I fucking love Halloween.
Yeah.
And I love John Carpenter, but if you're going to give credit to this dude, give credit to him because he's fucking great.
Yep.
And when this guy was firing on all cylinders, man, he was awesome.
Yep. When was Friday the 13th? When did that movie come out?
I'm going to guess it was like 1980, maybe.
Okay, I'm looking it up because I was just thinking of that
Mm-hmm.
from 1980, good one. So yeah, and this movie is, all those mouth sounds. It's just Andy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean this movie is like a fucking missing link in horror cinema.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that, this is the first place where you see it.
Yeah,
and absolutely, even though technically he didn't really make the first movie where some knife wielding killer goes around murdering people. There were movies like that in the 50s and the 40s. I mean, they were pretty tame in the 40s, but by the 50s they were getting pretty lurid.
Yeah, I don't think there were a whole lot of crystal unicorn statuette wielding murderers, though.
No, and Black Christmas is definitely a leap.
Oh yeah.
It's like saying, well, in heavy metal, you can argue, well, did Black Sabbath, were they the first metal band, or was it like Led Zeppelin? It's like, well, I mean, let's get real. If you're going to compare between those two, it's fucking Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it's King Crimson.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, is it Halloween? Is it Friday the 13th? Is it, there's this another one where there's this deranged killer that kills women and blah, blah, blah. It's like a 50s movie. Maybe it was a 60s movie.
Ooh.
Very much a slasher, that I could easily see could have influenced these later movies. But this movie is definitely a thing unto itself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a piece of art.
For sure.
Yep. So go see it. We give it a 9 out of 10. We were both impressed to the point of being a little blown away.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because it's out there. It's on free streaming services, and it's an obvious classic that just isn't talked about.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it deserves its place in horror history because it's great and it's influential.
Yep, absolutely. It's fantastic. So that's a 9 out of 10 from us. Final thought on the movie, John?
Go watch it. Tell us what you guys think about it.
That's a good point.
We love to interact with folks about this stuff. That's part of the fun.
If you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us on Facebook at Loathsome Podcast, or at Twitter or Instagram at Loathsome Pod. And listen to the next episode of Loathsome Things.
I mean, you can watch it too, but it's not much that's going to happen.
It's not real good to watch.
It would be like watching an Iranian film from the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Hey, yo! That was such a stupid joke.
John, say bye to the nice people.
Goodbye, nice people.